Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Phatkat Collections. Got another watch review, and this is by a new company for Phatkat Collections. The company is called Welly Merck, and this is another what I would consider, AliExpress, DHgate, eBay, Amazon sort of watch company. They also sell directly off their website. The site is in Chinese, I believe. I'm not 100% that it is. It appears to be Chinese, but you can also use Translate to read it in English, of course. So check it out. Links in the description. I'm also going to link you guys to where you can pick this up directly from Amazon. And I always prefer going directly to Amazon, especially when there's not a lot of price difference. So Welly Merck is what I consider to be a Chinese brand, like most things out there. So don't let that dissuade you. Absolutely love this watch. And I know I say that in every video because I am really open-minded when it comes to watches. And I am pretty... I'm not too nitpicky about watches. I think there's great quality across all different price points. And I think for $150, in all honesty, there are different price points. But in all honesty, $150 is all most people really have to spend on a watch. So what do I really like about this? Let's check it out. So this is their Kung Fu inspired watch. We're going to talk about that in a second. You can see it's sort of like what I'd consider, a lot of times when we say Richard Mille watches, a lot of people refer to these, myself included, as anything with a rubber strap, right? And it's not really a correct way of describing this, but it kind of has that look. It's interesting how, brands like Richard Mille and Phatkat and those luxury brands, Rolex, whenever a company comes out with something that sort of shares, even just loosely, a similar, like this case, a rubber strap, we kind of associate that. Just like when people see a stainless watch with a 3-link bracelet. The other day, some guy was like, "Oh, it's an oyster bracelet." I'm like, no, it's just a 3-link bracelet. But that's kind of, how people associate things, and I get it. But this one here is awesome. And you might be saying, well, geez, Phatkat, that's kind of like a lot of watches you've reviewed, right? And you'd be correct in saying that. But what really, and this is going to sound a little odd, especially if you've been watching me for a while, you guys know my taste in watches is extremely broad. And what I really like about this watch, and when I first saw that they wanted to send me this, they said pick out a watch, so I chose this one. When I first saw it, I was like, all right, this is going to be very similar to a lot of watches I have by Nubeo. You guys have seen all the videos I do on Nubeo watches, and they all have kind of like, not all, but there's a lot of rubber strap models, silicone, iso, whatever they use, right? It's different on every watch. But I didn't really make this assessment until I actually got the watch and started wearing it. What I like about it, and believe it or not, out of like 400 plus watches now, it's a smaller watch that has that kind of look, right? Most of the watches I have that are on a silicone or rubber strap, and I think this is silicone, are generally larger. They're more of like the 45 to 50 millimeter size, sometimes larger. What I like about this is that it's the only watch I have on a strap like this that gives you this look in a 42 millimeter size, and I actually really enjoy wearing this watch. The quality is exceptional, like anything else. You can compare this watch to watches I have that cost $2,000. I always like to compare my Aqua Dive watch with a lot of watches I review because it gives you kind of a solid assessment on what $2,000 gets you in a respected micro brand company. Not to say it's not a beautiful watch, not to say that if I had to choose between a watch, if I really needed a watch that I had to 100% trust my life with for water resistance. This is kind of a stupid analogy, but if I had to, I wouldn't choose this. I would choose the Aqua Dive over that, right? It's just more of what we'll call like a tool watch, a lot of guys say, right? So of course, this watch does have water resistance. It doesn't mean it's not water resistant. It doesn't mean this watch is going to last you for years and give you amazing quality and longevity, but I just think sometimes when you pay a little more, you are going to most of the time get something maybe with a little higher quality control. That's not meant to say this doesn't have that. I'm just trying to kind of paint the picture for you folks. But again, what I really like about it is just for $150, it's exceptional quality. I mean, it's a beautiful strap. It does have they call it carbon fiber. I'm just going to call it a carbon bezel because to me, and I could be wrong in this, it looks more of like a laminated carbon bezel, and I could be totally wrong in saying that. But when I think of carbon fiber, I think of the basket weave pattern. Hence, fiber, right? We see those layered fibers. This still might technically be carbon fiber. So again, if I'm wrong, I'm not gonna apologize. I just don't know. But I would consider this more of like a forged carbon type bezel. It has more of that look, and you can see it has kind of a wavy sort of, carbon pattern there. So it does have what's like a faux case and cradle design. It's just more of a groove down the side of the case. It gives it kind of the appearance that it's a case and cradle when it's really not. Exhibition window on the back. Welly Merck branding on the clasp. Pretty basic. Nothing really to write home about on the strap. But again, it's a really nice watch, and I've been enjoying wearing this one. I want something just kind of smaller that gives me that kind of look, So what does it say about this? Just so right off Amazon. So this is the inspiration here. It's honoring Chinese Kung Fu and Tai Chi with their limited edition. This is the WM128. They have a yellow and black version, and this is what they consider the white version. The only difference is they still have the yellow and black highlights on the watch. The yellow, what I'd almost call like a baton style kind of second hand. I believe that's what that represents. Almost like a jousting style. I remember if you ever watched American Gladiators back in the day, they had those huge like batons they had two big foam things on the end. They would bash each other off the pedestal. It kind of reminds me of that. Standard hands, and then what's cool about it too is you have on. It looks like one of the complications here. I think that's maybe the minute marker. Not 100% sure. You can see. Let me get something to point here. You can see there's like a yellow and a kind of a chrome or polished kind of like Kung Fu guy right here. Sorry if my camera's not focusing. I know, my camera sucks. I know, you tell me all the time. And then, of course, the white version just basically means that there's like white infused. It's like maybe a layered. I'm not sure if that's painted or if it's actually like a white carbon that's infused, kind of give you that laminated look. I like the contrast. I believe they also have in yellow. Then you have the yin yang on the crown, which is pretty cool. And on the back, you have sort of like I don't know what you call this. I'm going to demonstrate. I used to do this in karate years ago when I did this. We would actually, in one of our katas, we would actually, before we bow, I forget this has been a really long time, so bear with me. We'd kind of like put our hands like this and go down. Again, I'm going back. I was a little kid when I did this, But I used to love it. I used to love the martial arts. I kind of regret, I guess you're never too old to get involved in something. I'm just too busy. It would be pretty cool to get back into something like that, but I've always loved the martial arts. I'm not fanatical about it, but I think it's pretty cool. So anyway, on the back you have sort of like the fist, and I'm not sure what this signifies, but you guys will tell me, of course. But you can see it's just kind of a stick figure of that on the back. Looks like a screw down case back. Definitely something that has kind of a strange, almost like a star bit head. If you had to remove the case back on this, if those are the screws, get this off, you're going to have to go see a jeweler or a watch repair shop, because I surely don't have anything that small that allow you to get these star bits off. And it's not a like female star bit, it's a male bit. So that might be totally fake. This might just be a pop-off case back or even threaded, have no idea. But I mean, 150 bucks, it's a pretty awesome looking watch. What else do we have? It is an automatic, it's a chronograph. It does have a semi-skeletonized dial. I always like skeletonized faces. And what I like about this too is you have the skeletonized face, but then I like that they did the yellow karate guy or kung fu guy right here. It is, it's subtle, but you can still see it. If they would have done that all in like black or chrome, you'd never notice it. So I like that it pops a little bit with the yellow. And then, of course, the crown features the symbol of Tai Chi, the yin yang. Let's see, it does have a sapphire crystal, so that's a great checkbox for many folks. And what else? It looks like the back, and this is what I was trying to explain. I guess that's called the Kung Fu Salute. I don't know. No idea, but I learned something new today, which happens often when I review these watches live, unedited. 5 ATMs of water resistance, which is 50 meters of waterproofing. I like to say water resistance because nothing is waterproof. And really for folks who love the Chinese Kung Fu culture, that's really about it. I think it's awesome, I wish they would have, I wish that the figure, what a lot of brands, this kind of reminds me of Nubeo when they do like some of the space themes. Some are really like very apparent that it's themed from like the moon, right? The whole face is like a crater. Other times it's a very loose kind of inspiration, where I think this is kind of loose. It's very subtle, and really nobody's going to see this on your wrist when you point it out to them and really notice that unless they're really looking at it. So I think it would be kind of cool to maybe, I think this would have been better on the back, the what do we call it, the the Kung Fu salute motif. I think that would have been nicer done in like a yellow to maybe make it pop a little more. And then of course I would have done these, you know, the Kung Fu guys here kind of sparring. I might have done that larger just so it's more noticeable. But overall, I mean, it's a great looking piece and I really like it. Another thing I really like about this, and you guys, you know, when I review watches, I don't really get too involved in the presentation of the watch box, but I love this one. This is what it came in, kind of a travel case. Super small. You know, a lot of times, like when Invicta gives you these friggin' things, like this is not, I use these for ammo. Like this isn't going to go anywhere with you if you're traveling. It's way too big. And you know, you don't have to have something. This is great if you're going to ship it somewhere and maybe throw it off the back of a truck. But I mean, realistically, these are just kind of a waste of space. Where I really like these. And what's nice about these, and I wish you could buy these separate. I wish they were like $1 because then I'd buy hundreds of them. But what I like about this is that if you did collect their brand, right? Let's say, and I believe all their watches come in these, and this is for any brand, right? Especially Invicta, because people collect tons of Invicta watches, right? What I like about these is that you can store your watch in this. It offers a decent amount of protection, right? I would be pretty inclined to think if you put this watch in here, zipped it up, and threw it out the window and it hit the concrete, it's not going to damage the watch. Don't try it, but I think this offers enough protection to protect the watch. I don't mean running it over with a car, but definitely impact resistant, right? And what I like about this as well is that, imagine having a bunch of these just kind of like in, let's say you have a dresser drawer. You can kind of line these up to kind of make your own makeshift kind of storage case. If somebody want, you know, I really like that. And then you can just kind of, you know, you kind of prop them open if you wanted. I don't know, just kind of thinking outside the box, but I love it. It's a nice kind of canvas. I don't know if you'd call that like a canvas. Kind of reminds me of like a flak jacket almost. It's fantastic. As soon as I opened the box, I was like, this is what I want in a watch presentation. No fancy. They give you a little instruction manual, which, let's face it, you don't really need. You know, this is all you want. Now, one thing I do want to mention, they mentioned that this is a chronograph, and this is not a chronograph that I can tell. So it says here, the chronograph watch features. And now, I don't see how this is a chronograph, because generally, chronographs have, let me just pull the crown here. It is a non-screw down crown as well, just so you know, it's push-pull. And difficult for me without nails to get my hand on, my fingers under. So some of you nail biters, I'm sure, can relate. As gross as that is, but it is what it is. Kind of pop the crown out. So to the best of my understanding here, you know, sometimes you'll get a watch that has a fake chronograph, and I don't think this is fake, but they're incorrect in calling this a chronograph because a chronograph has function pushers. So I am going to, if they don't catch that in the video, they do need to change the listing on this because a chronograph, you know, this watch is basically, from what I could tell, these are a second and maybe an hour marker complication that just change with, let me just kind of go to set the watch here. I'm going to pop this off here again. When we go to set the watch, that should turn. Yeah, so looks like that's, so this dial right here is an hour marker, and the other one appears to be a minute marker, I think. I don't see that moving now. Let me just go all the way to the... That's really strange. Let me just kind of wind this a little more. Oh, there it goes. Is it maybe a half-hour complication or hour complication? Strange. When I rotate, I think it's... Let's see. I went 24 hours and it clicked... Bear with me, okay? Trying to get this sucker to move. Alright, so there it moves. So I think this is an hour, maybe 24-hour complication on there. I'm not 100% sure, but this is kind of where companies need to, they just say here, they say sapphire crystal, stainless steel, second and 24-hour subdial. I'm not seeing this as seconds, but I could be. Your main second hand is your baton hand, or your second is your second hand, and then 24-hour subdial. So they don't mention the other one. I'm going to assume that that's... Oh, there it goes. All right, so sorry, I had to get it running again. So you basically have your large second hand, that's your second hand. When you look at a lot of chronographs, like for instance, if you have ronda movements, a lot of people email me all the time, they're like, my watch battery's dying quick. I'm like, well, do you have the second hand turning? On a standard chronograph that has that type of movement, you press the upper function button to activate the chronograph or stopwatch. You press it again to pause it, and then you press the second function pusher to reset it, and you'll see the second hand swing around back to the 12. That's meant to remain stationary, and then they generally have a second subdial, seconds subdial. So with this, it actually has the second hand being a second hand, not related to a chronograph, and then you have a second and subdial. So kind of weird. It's kind of repetitive, but you know, it's definitely not. This is definitely not a chronograph. So now let me just state something. Maybe there is a loose definition of a chronograph. My understanding of a chronograph, it has to have the stopwatch function, whereas this might just mean that it's, you know, I would almost call this like a multigraph or something like that. But if you know, let me know if what I'm saying is incorrect, and if it is, then, you know, I apologize. But overall, really nice watch. And without further ado, let's throw it on the wrist. 7-inch wrist I got, 42mm watch. It's a good piece. You're gonna like it if you pick one of these up. And if you're in the market for, you know, a Richard Mille style, and I say that again, forgive me very loosely, you know, this is a nice piece. It's 42mm. It's what I would consider like your sweet spot for most watches. And you know, I know I know I'm a loudmouth, right? And so, you know, over the years, you know, you have to look at some of my earlier videos. Like I was a lot. Still in my 30s. But, you know, I mean, when I did a lot of the other videos, I kind of came back hard at people who would have different opinions than me. And I just guess I just come from the school of like, if you don't have anything nice, don't say anything at all. I embrace people who express themselves, even if it's not something I'm into. But I don't like when people try to put others down or try to insult other people's taste, because ultimately, if you don't like this, you don't have to buy it. If you don't like an Invicta, you don't have to buy it. But you don't have to try to make somebody else feel bad for what they like. Now, let me just say something. Nobody makes me feel bad for what I like. I am straight up myself. I know who I am, and I enjoy what I like. But I also don't tolerate people trying to be keyboard warriors and mouth off. So I do fire back at those folks. But on the flip side to that, you know, my point is that the sweet spot in watches that really appeals to most people is going to be that 40 to 42mm size. And, you know, for me, I still wear the big giant watches. Do not get me wrong, I do. But as I've gotten older, and I don't want to make that kind of compare, I don't want to make that statement where it's like now that I'm older, more mature, I wear more adult sized watches. It's not the case. I still wear the big stuff. But I feel like a lot of times when I'm wearing a watch, I don't know. I just lately I may go back to wearing the big ones more and more often. But one thing I don't, before I was like, I'm not wearing a small watch. And even though I did in the past, I just have always liked the big stuff. And I think now, you know, I appreciate all the sizes a little more than I used to. I'll admit it, you know, but don't get me wrong, like, you know, I just bought this beautiful steel dive the other day. If you haven't checked this out, it's a great piece, and you can see it's a lot larger. It's a big, chunky watch. It's big, it's thick, so, you know, I still wear the big boys too, don't get me wrong, but I do like this as well, and that's the cool thing about the watches out there. There's so many great watches you can pick up for, I mean, 150 bucks. That's incredible. If you don't like the black, you can get it in stainless steel. I'm going to try to collaborate with them again. I really like their product. I look forward to sharing more of these with you. As always, links are in the description. If I can help in any way, let me know. Drop me a comment or drop me an email. As always, have a fantastic day and take care now.